The alley behind the old shipping warehouse was a place even hardened men avoided after dark. Broken glass crunched under heavy boots as Victor Kane, a feared gangster whose name alone froze blood, stepped out of his black car. His life was built on fear, deals sealed with violence, and a past he never spoke about. As he lit a cigarette, a faint sound cut through the night, a weak whimper, barely louder than the wind. Victor ignored it at first. Then it came again, closer this time. He looked down and saw a small, dirty puppy dragging one injured leg, its ribs showing through matted fur. The puppy stopped in front of him, tail trembling, eyes wide but hopeful. Instead of running, it sat and lifted its paw as if begging. Victor scoffed, muttering that even animals were stupid enough to trust monsters. He turned to walk away, but the puppy followed, collapsing again, crying softly. Something cracked inside him, a memory buried deep of a freezing winter night decades ago, when no one stopped for a starving boy except a stray dog that shared its warmth. Victor cursed under his breath and knelt. As he touched the puppy, headlights flared. Rival gang members burst into the alley, guns raised. In the chaos, a bullet ricocheted toward the puppy. Without thinking, Victor shielded it, taking the hit in his shoulder. His men fought back, and the rivals fled. Blood soaking his coat, Victor laughed bitterly at himself, a man who survived countless shootouts, wounded protecting a dying puppy. He wrapped the puppy in his jacket and drove through the night, ignoring the pain, heading somewhere he never thought he'd return, a small veterinary clinic near the church he once slept behind as a child. The vet said the puppy would have died by morning without treatment. Victor stayed, silent and pale, watching the tiny chest rise and fall. News spread fast in the underworld that Victor Kane had vanished. His empire teetered as enemies closed in, but Victor didn't care. Over days, he returned again and again, feeding the puppy, cleaning its wounds, sitting beside it like a god. He named it Hope, a word he hadn't spoken in years. When Hope finally stood, tail wagging, licking his scarred hand, something shifted permanently. Victor began paying off debts he once collected with fists. He shut down trafficking routes, sold weapons, and quietly funneled money into shelters and clinics, starting with that same alley. His own men were stunned when he walked away from the life, handing control to someone else and disappearing. Months later, the alley was transformed into a small rescue center. Children laughed where blood once spilled. Victor, now just a man in a worn jacket, swept the floor while Hope ran between the cages. One evening, a former rival approached, gun hidden but eyes unsure. Hope ran to him, tail wagging, just like that first night. The man froze, then lowered his weapon. Victor smiled softly, understanding the truth at last. Power never saved him. Fear never healed him. A broken puppy begging for help did what no bullet or deal ever could. It redeemed a man the world thought was beyond saving. The rain had turned the streets into mirrors of broken light when the puppy crawled out from beneath a wrecked motorcycle. Its body was thin, ribs sharp, one eye swollen shut, but it still moved forward, driven by something stronger than fear. Across the street stood Armin Cross, a gangster whose name carried weight like a loaded gun. Men crossed sidewalks to avoid him. He noticed the puppy only because it didn't run. Instead, it sat in front of him, trembling, lifting one muddy paw as if asking permission to live. Armin laughed, a cold sound. Wrong man, he muttered. He had built his life on taking, not giving. He turned away, but the puppy whimpered, then collapsed at his feet. The sound punched through years of armor. Images flooded back, himself at 8 years old, beaten, hungry, begging strangers who looked through him like glass. His jaw tightened, then chaos erupted. A rival crew roared into the street, bullets tearing through rain. One shot screamed toward the ground. Armin moved without thought, shielding the puppy as pain exploded through his side. His men scattered the attackers, but Armin barely noticed. He pressed his coat around the shaking animal, blood soaking through the fabric. Sirens wailed in the distance as he carried the puppy to his car, whispering through clenched teeth, "Don't die, not like this." The puppy lived. The vet said it was a miracle. Armin stayed through the night, ignoring calls about territory and revenge. The puppy slept curled against his chest, warm and stubbornly alive. He named it Mercy, though he didn't yet understand why. Days passed. The streets whispered that Armin Cross was slipping. He was seen selling properties, cutting ties, paying debts he once enforced with violence. Mercy healed quickly, tail wagging, trusting everyone, watching that trust hurt more than the bullet ever did. Armin followed it. He funded shelters, turned warehouses into clinics, and shut down the trade that had poisoned the neighborhood. Old enemies came looking for weakness, and found a man unafraid to die but unwilling to destroy anymore. One evening, in the same street where it all began, children played while Mercy ran free. A former rival approached, hatred in his eyes, until Mercy bounded toward him, joyful and fearless. The man froze, then laughed, lowering his hands. Armin understood then. Redemption didn't arrive with thunder. It came quietly on 4 small paws, begging not for power, but for help.